for inviting me here. You reminded me of many of the evenings and mornings that I especially spend in my hometown, in my own home. For the last many years, I have been in different places, different countries because of my work. But whenever I go back home, the first sound that you hear early morning when you get up is the chanting of Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna. I belong to a place called Puri, if you know. And one of the four dhams, one of the four sacred places, pilgrimage of Hindus, is one of them is Puri. And the lone picture that you have kept here of Lord Jagannath, who has no feet, no hands, half male. It's a combination of three deities, Jagannath, Balbhadra and Subhadra, two brothers and a sister, three different colors, black, white and yellow, and a combination of male and female. If you see Jagannath, in one side of the nose, there is an ornament, which means we interpret in India as Ardhanarishwar, half male and half female, essentially giving the impression that the God, the universe, is both Prakriti, which is the female form of energy, and Purus, which is the male form of creation. And both have been incarnated in Lord Jagannath. And in the whole tradition of Vaishnava culture in India, which came in the eastern part of India, which is the Gaudiya Vaishnava Parampara, or we say the tradition of Gaudiya Vaishnava, where you worship Sri Krishna in different forms, and then devotion becomes your medium of worship. In Gita, there are four different ways that you can surrender yourself to the Almighty, to the ultimate knowledge, ultimate salvation. And one of them is Bhakti Yoga, is devotion. And that is how the eastern part of India got influenced by the Vaishnavite Parampara, the tradition. And in Puri, Chaitanya came to Puri temple, to find Sri Krishna. And then the stories goes that he wanted to see Jagannath in that form of Sri Krishna. And when he went to the temple, he actually saw Krishna and not the form of Jagannath. And subsequently he was told that whoever is Krishna that you are looking for is the same who has been incarnated in Puri as Jagannath. And that is how the Car festival in India, in Puri temple, is a very unique tradition. There are in our societies, when we worship, there are only two things: the supernatural and the natural. Natural is us who are created. Supernatural is somebody which we don't know, we only feel and we believe. It's a question of faith. There is no logic, there is no science. But in between the supernatural and you, there are ways there are institutions which help you to realize that supernatural power. But then I must tell this before I leave. In Puri, there is a tradition of annual car festival. And the reason behind the car festival is that there are devotees of Jagannath, who is the Buddha, who is Krishna, who is everything, who is Rama, who is everything. We believe. And there are whole 500, 600 years of history around how these things have developed. But then Jagannath temple is one of the temples in the world, in the world where there is ritualistic duty for each section of the society, from the lowest to the highest. And there are different kinds of priests, there are different kinds of food maker, there are the person who wakes the god in the morning is a different person, he is not necessarily the priest. The person who actually takes the god for sleeping at the end of the day is a different person. So there is role for every different kind of people with different kind of profession. Similarly, Jagannath believed, in that tradition, you believe that devotees have no religion, no faith. So anybody can be a devotee of Jagannath. But in our Hindu tradition, somehow at some point of time, it crept into it that if you are not a Hindu, you will not be allowed to enter into the temple of Jagannath. And the biggest devotees, friends of Jagannath is, which in the Madala Panji, the text which has been written and kept in the temple, the biggest devotee is somebody who is a Muslim. And because the priest didn't allow him to enter into the temple, what he did is he went to the seashore, brought sands of the sea, and created a temple, and said, God, if you believe in my devotion, if you are my God, then you will come to this small temple and so appear here. And the head priest, when he opened the door of the temple the next day, he didn't see the goddess, God and goddesses. So they have disappeared. And then he asked what mistake I made. The god in a dream told him that the biggest devotee is, you didn't allow the biggest, one of the devotees that he wanted to see me, and that is why he asked me to be in his temple. So I have gone to his temple. You have to bring him back. And these are stories. There are so many stories about Jagannath and the whole tradition of Rath Yatra in India. And from that day, what Jagannath wished to the king is that once in a year, I'll come out of the temple. Irrespective of whoever is believer, non-believer, whoever wants to see me, I must come out and meet my devotees. And that is how the tradition of car festival, or Rath Yatra that you say, and ISKCON actually celebrates in a different way, but the whole idea of origin of car festival or Rath Yatra is from the temple of Jagannath, where once in a year he comes out of. There are various other stories also, but there is no time for me to tell you all those interesting stories. I think I have to come to the temple again and again for 1 year to tell you all those stories. So there is a human element to it. God is human. If you see the rituals of from early morning to late night till his temple is shut down, he goes through the whole kind of, Jagannath is one of the god where he actually takes a nap in the afternoon, if you don't know. And he also falls sick, in the during the rainy season, where you get flu, the season of flu, after summer, and then the early rainy season of Asad, and then it's very natural for anybody to fall sick, and God Jagannath actually falls sick, and after falling sick for 15 days, he feels that he has been confined in his home and he must go to a different place for a change of place. And he decides that instead of staying in mother's place, I must go to my aunt's place, Mausi. We call it Mausi. Mausi is the mother's sister. And that is how he goes to the temple called Gundicha, from his own temple. And that is the process of going from one temple, one place to the other, basically saying one village to the other, is whole car festival is. And in that process, I will go visit my devotees, meet my devotees, listen to them, and then go to my mother's sister place. And there I'll go. This is also interesting, I must say, that I will go with my brother and sister. What happened to my wife? I left her behind in the temple without telling her. And then I went to my Moses' place, stayed there for 7 days, came back. When you come back to your own home and you have not taken your wife along, what happens? Wife shut the door. And there is a whole ritual of, and who is Jagannath's wife? Lakshmi. So Mother Lakshmi says, you left me and went to your aunt's place, enjoyed all good food, good time. When you were sick, I took care of you. And now you are coming back with your elder brother and sister and telling me I'll enter the house. I can't allow that. So the whole beauty of Jagannath tradition, the whole Gaudiya Parampara is that, that's an equality of gender also there. And then there is a whole process of how he tells Lakshmi and tries to justify that, my elder brother was with me, my sister was with me, how can you go, you were a princess, this, that, all kinds of things. And then Lakshmi finally says, these are all excuses. What basically happened, you forgot that you were married to me. You were always, because you grew up with your brother and sister, you remembered them, but you forgot because I came from a different home. And then finally Jagannath apologizes to Lakshmi and says, this is my mistake. And that is how then she opens the door and said, welcome to the home. So friends, the whole idea of my telling all these in a very short form, I wanted to keep my speech limited to a few minutes, but pardon me, I just can't. When I see Jagannath, actually I feel that I am the first devotee of Jagannath. And I just can't control myself to tell you what the whole Jagannath tradition is and where we are. But I think this temple, by promoting that, by giving you the sense of bhakti, and please remember, bhakti is only, in our tradition, bhakti is only one way of surrendering to the ultimate. There are other ways, karma yoga, the jnana yoga and bhakti. So people have different ways to realize and reach to the ultimate. But at the end of the day, our purpose is to realize what we are, where we are, and what we are. And Govardhan Puja in Vaishnava tradition is another way of respecting your nature, respecting the flora and fauna and mountain, the animals, the whole ecosystem which in the whole, I think, our own development, we have somehow neglected in the last many years. And this reminds us that you are also part of that ecosystem which God has created, which has been the bigger universe. And I am, once again, I must thank for giving me this opportunity to share my ideas with you. But as I said, I'm open for all those beautiful stories with my own interpretation. Anytime you invite me and want to listen to me, I'm ready to do this. Thank you very much.
So with 3 loud Hari Bols, let us thank His Excellency. 2, 3. Hari Bol! Hari Bol! Hari Bol! And yes, we will be inviting you, especially because of His Divine Grace, Srila Prabhupada. He brought Rath Yatra to the West, and in Trinidad we have 4. So next year you'll be busy. So now we'll be proceeding, but before we do that, I'd like to acknowledge Minister Honorat, Hare Krishna, came with us last year, and he had such a good time, and he's here with us. Would you like to come and greet us for a little bit?
Jai Sri Krishna. Your Excellency, the Indian High Commissioner to Trinidad and Tobago, welcome. I know this is your very first Diwali season here in our beloved country. Your President and Executive of this mandir, devotees all, let me say how extremely delighted I am to once again receive such a warm invitation from your organization on such a memorable and eventful day such as this one. In this mandir, on your calendar annually, this is one of the highlights that you look forward to because of the glories of Bhagwan Sri Krishna. The philosophy that you subscribe to is Krishna consciousness, which is one of love, which is one of peace, which is one of harmony. As I sat there looking, I remembered last year the setup that you had. And always, there's a murti of Lord Krishna holding up the mountain Govardhan on his little finger. And it reminded me of chapter 6, verse 5 of the Bhagavad Gita, where Lord Krishna tells us, lift yourself by yourself. As devotees of Lord Krishna, we know in Bhagavad Gita he says, Yada yada hir dharmasya, glanir bhavati bharata, abhyutar dharmasya taratmanam srijamyaham, parittanaya sadhunam, vinashaya dushkritam, dharam sansapanataya, sambhavami yuge yuge. He says when righteousness is on decline, like as it is today in our own country, he said when the world is going wrong, I will come from age to age to relieve you from your troubles. This evening, as I come to join with you in observance of Govardhan Puja and of the magnificence and the glories of Lord Krishna, many times we say in local parlance, we wait for God. I remind you in Bhagavad Gita, while Lord Krishna said he will come, he also reminded us to lift ourselves by ourselves, because God helps those who help themselves. So it's a wonderful experience to be here once more with you. I thank you for your continued love and support. I'll tell you this. I always say as a public official, especially in a small country like ours, people will like you, love you, and hate you all in the same breath. But one thing I've always received from your organization and from devotees like you who subscribe to Krishna consciousness is that you do not know about like, you do not know about hate, you do not know about indifference. All I've ever felt from you is your love your support, and your encouragement. And I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because sometimes it's not always an easy road to walk. But knowing that there are people out there who promote values, who promote principles, who promote a dharmic way of life through Krishna consciousness as you do, with the promotion of love, harmony, and integrity. That is what sometimes gives us the impetus to keep going forward. So may Bhagwan Krishna continue to bless each and every one of you. And I hope that your organization will continue to grow from strength to strength, especially at a time when what we really need in our own country and throughout the world is the values of Lord Krishna through the love and the teachings of Sri Bhagavad Gita. Jai Sri Krishna.
So please, with a loud Hari Bol, let us thank him again. Hari Bol! And now inviting all the devotees, please stand up. We are going to perform the Govardhan Artik. Hare Krishna.